Guys, I have a lot of books to show you. Per usual, this is a book haul. Of course, there's a lot of books to show you. Gosh, Pete. Wow. It never ends. And I apologize to myself. I can't apologize to you because I know you guys love it. And looking at my wallet rapidly drain through my pant legs, because that's where the money goes, obviously. It doesn't go through the fingers. So, book haul? You want to see it? I got it. Let's go. I got a bunch of these spread around, but let's start with the introductions because that seems logical. I'm Pete. This is the Ponderings of Pete. You get to see the contents of my wallet, aka my books. Drop a like if you like this video. If you've read these books and you want to tell me about them, let me know. If you've haven't read these books, but some of them seemed interesting, let me know. If I should move some of them up my TBR, let me know that. If you hate some of these books, that's also an interesting opinion. Let me know. Without further ado, let's get into the books. I don't know why I'm doing that. First up, I have a series that was sent to me by Evie. She was only Evie. She was doing an unhaul and was like, hey, send me shipping and I'll ship things to you. So she was getting rid of her Dorothy Dunnett series, which is the Lymond Chronicles. This is a particular favorite of our friend Klaus at the Contradictorian. He says this is some of the best books probably the best books he's ever read. Unfortunately, she did send me 6, but as you can tell, there are only 4. Thank you, USPS, for ripping open the box accidentally and letting 2 of them fall out. You are a gem. So, I have to find a way to replace these before I get to the series. And you're probably wondering what they're about. I would say just go to Klaus, but these, from what I know, are historical fiction. They are mainly based in Scotland, I think. There's a returning hero and a struggle for a throne, I think. I was interested from what Klaus loves them. Yep. So currently I have books 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm missing 1 and 6. Inconveniently. Thank you. Again, USPS. Next up, I have 2 that were recommended by my friend Michael Nip that I ended up buying. One is Rabbits. I ended up buying the US cover, even though I think the UK cover is vastly superior. I think this was cheaper, and it's just what happened. So Rabbits is really interesting. It's based off of an audio drama. I don't think it's not the same story, but there's an audio drama called Rabbits, which is phenomenal. Think secret conspiracies, virtual reality games, and just trippiness. So that's Rabbits. It's really cool. I love the audio drama, and I'm looking forward to reading this at some point. The other one is another one that he raves about, and that is The Atlantis Gene by A.G. Riddle. This was also self-published, or originally self-published at the very least, which makes it very nice. Or at least indie published, I don't know. But yeah, this is also secret cabal doing things with history, and I think there's has something to do with a plague. I don't know. That was hidden in Atlantis. I don't know. I can't remember very much about this book other than Michael raves about it. So I'm gonna read it at some point. Next, we have another recommendation from another booktuber, and you guys have seen me talk about this. If this is your first video, you haven't seen me talk about it. For the rest of you, you've definitely seen me talk about it. That is Fred. Fred the Vampire Accountant. I have the first 3 books. I'm gradually collecting the other ones because budget reasons. Because I can't spend $100 on 7 books at once. Or more. Or less. So yeah, Fred, the utterly uninteresting tales of Fred the Vampire Accountant. And the second one is Undeath and Taxes. Third one is Bloody Acquisitions. They're good. Go read them. They're about a guy who got bitten by a vampire. And he was an accountant. And after he becomes a vampire, he stays an accountant. Because why else would he change? He just works at night and works from home now and runs his own company. It's great. And there is amazing found family in here. Stories in here. It's kind of like a bunch of short stories throughout his life. So check these out. They're amazing. They're self-published. Support your self-published authors. Next up, we have a book that you can't get online. It is called America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. Another recommendation by Andrew at Andrews Rigidly Reads, as well as Noah from Everyone Who Reads Must Converse. From what I've heard it described, it reminds me vaguely of Infinite Jest in the sense that it's very all over the place and meta in its own way, and just kind of just trippy as you read it. This book, I've heard, breaks the fourth wall continuously. It's kind of a commentary on Donald Trump and that whole thing. So yeah, I will put instructions, because you have to message the author and send him a PayPal to buy it, and he will send it to you from a European country. Because of how the book industry works there, I don't know. So yeah, check this out. This is an interesting book. Next book, I picked it up, I think, when I bought one of the Fred books, because I'm slowly collecting this series as well, and that is Tongues of Serpents by Naomi Novik. This is book 6 of the Temeraire series. I am slowly going to read Temeraire eventually. I read His Majesty's Dragon right before I joined BookTube, and I really liked it, but I didn't get the chance to finish this series, which I believe is 9 books. So probably going to wait until I find some other people to read this with to finish the series. I know it's on Alan's list of Flintlock fantasy books. Essentially, it's, okay, Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon's invading the rest of the world. What if there were dragons? First book was kind of slow. I think that the military aspects of it pick up in the other books. So I'm kind of excited. Just dragons and Napoleonic Wars. Next one, I think I picked this up in a thrift store. I've heard of this series before, and I know my brother has read it. But that is Red Mars. This is the first in a series, I think, of 3. We have Red, Green, and Blue Mars. I don't know what order they're in. It's a trilogy. It's Red, Green, Blue, and this is about the terraforming of Mars. That's all you need to know. Humans are going to Mars, and they want to make it green or blue and make it like Earth so we can live on it without having stuff. So, yeah, that's cool. The next one I also found at a thrift store. This is a hardback of the second book in the Deathgate cycle. It's called The Elven Star. A few people on Alan's channel, I think, or Alan's Discord, were talking about reading this. So it's written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. I don't know if I don't think it's related to D&D. But no, it is not. It's just a fantasy book. But I've heard it's really good, so I will be reading it for certain eventually. Once I get the other 2 collections. Next book that I bought randomly, because that's just how it happens. I bought it because of a friend of mine, Michi at the Heart of Michi, or Michi's Book Reviews. She has 2 different channels. She's really intellectual, really fun to listen to. Has been really into the MBTI for years. But I think she's moving away from that. I think she's doing more book content. I don't know. But that is Quality Land. This is similar in the vein to 1984 to a certain extent, where Amazon has basically taken over. So it combines AI with Amazon and okay, hey, things auto order for you. So if they will use artificial intelligence to predict what you need and send it to you. So this is when one man decides he doesn't want what they sent him and tries to return it. But returns are unheard of, obviously, because AI rules. These next 4 books of 4, I bought them because Alan is doing a read-along for the first 4 in this 10-book series. And I'm probably going to end up reading all 10 because I really like the first one. But we have The Shadows of the Apt series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Starts with Empire of In Black and Gold. Continues in Dragonfly Falling, Blood of the Mantis, Salute the Dark. Really interesting series. Insectal fantasy, but instead of fantasy evolved around mammals or whatever, or dragons, everything. There's a lot of giant insects in this world. So society has shaped itself according to that. You have ant people sort of ant kindin, you have beetle kindin, and they have access to magics that aren't magic, meditative things that allow them to do things like climb on walls and fly. And yeah, it's really cool. And it's according to like their specific insects. So you have the mantis kindin and all that jazz that can fly, but also I think no, they can't. But they have like arm blades, which is really cool, and the wasp kindin have like stinger things that is just magic bolts coming out of their hands. It's really cool. Check this out. Check out Alan's Discord where we're buddy reading the first 4 of these, and then I'll be reading the other 6 as well because it's a really good series so far, and I want to read more Tchaikovsky because he's cool. He's also a machine. These next 2, I don't know if these were on my last book haul, but they should have been. So I'm just going to put these up here because a friend of mine bought these for me, and I want to give a shout out to him because Dylan is awesome. But he got me 1984 and then a collection of H.G. Wells. 1984 is great because I really needed it because I'm reading it next month, hopefully. And it's awesome. And next month being September. I don't know when this is coming out. But it's really cool. These are all things I need to read. I think I've read some of these when I was younger, are H.G. Wells, but I've never read 1984, which is a crime against humanity. This next book, I bought it because I've heard good things about it, and I was not disappointed. And that is A Natural History of Dragons. Guys, this is a beautiful book. It has a blend of like Indiana Jones, Jane Austen, and some other things that I can't tell you without spoiling the book. All interspersed with a blend of for science. So basically, Lady Trent is writing her memoirs about how she studied dragons. And you start out in fantasy England, and then you go to fantasy Tibet, technically, I would say. But this is a really good series, and I really want to continue on this series. Like, my mom loved it after I recommended it to her. And it's just so beautiful, and y'all should read it. It's really well written, emotionally provocative, and just great. Next up are some more thrift shop finds that, they're cheap. I may or may not read them in the future. It's unlikely, but it's possible. And that is Dune, Sandworms of Dune, Dune the Machine Crusade, and Dune the Butlerian Jihad. I have no idea where in the whole Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson part of Dune that these exist. I think Sandworms of Dune is maybe 8. I don't know. Technically 8 in the Dune saga or whatever. But, nope. This is 7. This is immediately afterwards, after Chapter House. I may read these in the future. They were cheap at the thrift store. Actually, my dad found them for me, and he was like, "Hey, you want these?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." So I have them if I want to read them eventually. But I know that their quality is not Dune. We'll see. These 6 were sent to me by the author in exchange for an honest review. Starting on the first one in September. This series is called Future's Birth. This is a fantasy series that starts out in a small town, but it gradually gets larger in scope and more epic in scope as time goes on. We start out with 3 strangers, and they definitely probably become 3 friends as time goes on, I would assume. Maybe. Who knows? I gotta read it first. But this is written by S.J. Saunders. S.J. Saunders. He's great. I know he's on Shelf Published In, but he just came out with book 6. So check these out. They're really short. They look like they'll be quick reads. Hopefully that'll be good for my expansive TBR for September. Next up, it looked interesting. I'm pretty sure this came off of Book Outlet. I'm like 95% sure because this is kind of a random one. But it's Sherlock Holmes versus Cthulhu. Do you need to know more? Like, that's kind of why I bought it. Sherlock Holmes versus Cthulhu. Sounds like a load of fun. This next one looks like a history book, but it's definitely not because it's a fantasy book, and that is Orcs by Stan Nichols. So I think this is a compendium of his Orcs series, which is like, I think 3 books, but it's about orcs. Not many people write about orcs. This looked interesting. It was on Book Outlet, I'm pretty sure, so I bought it. And I don't go on Book Outlet anymore, precisely because of buying a lot of random books. There's probably more to that order that I just forgot about. Next up, another thrift store buy, but it looked interesting. It's called The Forgotten Legion by Ben Kane. This is historical fiction, which I'm looking to get a little bit more into. It's the story of 3 men and 1 woman fighting for honor, for freedom, for revenge. I'm not entirely sure when it happens. I know that it takes place during the history of the Roman Empire, which is a vast time period. I'm not sure if it's before or after Caesar's death. I think it is. I'm inclined to think it is after, because I know Gaul has been conquered in that. I think Caesar conquered Gaul. So it might be it's sometime after Gaul was conquered. That's really all I know about that. All right, next up is a book that I saw on sale at Target that I haven't gotten the sticker off of, or the next two are like this. So I bought them because they're interesting. This is the Shadow of Kyoshi book. I'm covering up the sticker because shame. I do not have the first book in this series, but I want to get the first book, but this was on sale, so I bought it because I know I'm going to read it. I really like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I haven't talked about ATLA at all on this channel because I haven't had an opportunity to, but now I do because Kyoshi. I'm really interested in getting to know more about the Avatar that was before Aang. She was kind of aggressive that I know of. Definitely not Aang. I mean, considering one of her pieces of advice to Aang at some point was kill everybody. So she was harsh. Next up is a bit of a YA book that entwines Greek mythology with some things, and that's always interesting to me ever since my Percy Jackson days. That's Lore, which by Alexandra Bracken. Looks interesting. I think I've heard some things about this, but it involves Greek gods being alive in the present day, but not Percy Jackson. I'm going to read it eventually, at some point. These next two were both thrift store finds, but they've been books I've been wanting to read for reasons. The first one is The Bourne Identity. I want to get into The Bourne Identity and possibly other thrillers as well, slowly but surely, just because I want to... This is more of a writing thing for me, is I want to be able to write something thriller-y at some point. So part of that is starting to read good thrillers and evaluate them. And that's Bourne Identity is the perfect place to start. There's like 20 books in this series, so why not just evaluate this entire series, right? I don't know. The second one, kind of a friend of mine really recommended this series to me. It was made into a movie a while ago, and this is the movie cover, I think, which kind of just makes me... Jumper. Made it into a movie. I know the movie was decent. I think I watched it ages and ages ago. A friend of mine recommended this series, so I'm going to read it at some point. I got you, Eddie. I'm going to talk about what this is. It's about a man who has teleportation powers. And other people in the world have teleportation powers. And there's probably a secret organization somewhere in there. I think I have a few secret organization books in here and on my TBR too. It's been a while. And he has to learn how to survive. And there's probably a love interest. Check it out. Last one I saw at the store. I was like, I like that author. I'm a buy dish. Jules Verne. It's a collection of Jules Verne stories. I loved some Jules Verne growing up. So we have 5 Weeks in a Bloom, which I've actually never heard of. Journey to the Center of the Earth. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And Around the World in 80 Days. Yeah. So I may be rereading some of these at some point. I know I've definitely read Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, even though 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea has faded from my memory more. I've seen multiple adaptions of Around the World in 80 Days, like the Jackie Chan one, which is perfecto. But, of course, probably not compared to the book. But it's beautiful. Like, look at this. It's got like gold edging. It smells sterile. But it's got some nice sounds. Okay. But it's nice and pretty. So that's part of the reason why I bought it. That's my book haul. Was this book haul completely all the books I bought since the last book haul? No, it was not. I'm sorry. I don't know how to completely do things. I don't have like a book haul shelf. I just shove them in places and shove them around as I rearrange things. So I don't know if I got all of them. So it's cool. Thank you so much for getting through that video with me. A little long. I don't know. We'll find out when I get to it. But you guys are awesome. Get some rest. Subscribe, all that jazz.